Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand TV. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal brand and business development company. I want to take you on a journey through another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand TV series, you will differentiate yourself from the competition and build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build confidence, and reflect who you are. Building your 5-star personal brand is a great way to improve your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh@5starbdm.com. Now, let's begin with our next episode on the Follow the Brand TV. Welcome, everyone, for another fantastic week on the Follow the Brand podcast. I'm your host, Grant McGaugh. I always take special pleasure when I get to talk to the executives at Memorial West of the Memorial Healthcare System. But I'm especially proud of the moment that I'm going to have right now. I met Vedner at the ACHE dinner just a few weeks back. Now, I've seen him. We talk about a personal brand. This guy's brand has been wide. I mean, I've seen him in a virtual setting when he was at Miramar. He was running Miramar as a CEO. I'm thinking he's still running Miramar as a CEO of the healthcare system. Then boom, he's at Memorial West. I cannot keep up with Vedner. So I'm going to introduce you to him. We're going to have a candid conversation about himself and his journey and what makes him special. So Vedner, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Grant. Good day to all. My name is Vedner Guerrier, CEO of Memorial Hospital West, and it's a pleasure to have an opportunity to spend this afternoon with Grant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to start because I like to jump right in. And what I just talked about as far as you moving, and I know you got your start just at the staff level, and then you went into therapy, then you went into respiratory, you got into oncology, and then you got into more and more leadership roles. I want to ask you, what, if you had to step back and look at that, what are you leveraging as a skill set, as a superpower for you over and over again to help you propel your career forward?
I think it's the commitment to being better, getting better, learning, and more importantly about the importance of relationship and understanding how to engage with people, learn about people. And I think that's been one of the catalysts for my growth as a professional. I've had the opportunity to learn so much from so many other people. And it opens when you're curious about people and their different perspectives, it allows you to be easily mentored.
Well, I know that you've had some great mentors. You've talked about them on some other programs. And we just talked about the new COO over Memorial Healthcare System, Leah Carpenter. You took over her hospital. And those are some pretty big shoes to fill. And I even told you earlier, my kids were born at Memorial West. So I have a lot of love for that facility. And I want to ask you, as you've taken over, you've gone through probably, I'm going to say, probably the toughest couple of years here in the COVID era. You've had to jump through things. You've had to do things that aren't in your job description, but you did them. When you had to split the hospital into two, the COVID ward and the non-COVID ward, and then just move things around. What would you say was your most challenging moments during those times? And what made you feel good as things got better?
As a CEO, the biggest challenge that I had, in particular, coming into this COVID era was really, how do I keep my staff safe? How do I keep these folks safe? How do I provide the care that we need to provide to the community that has entrusted their care with us? So how do we balance that out? We're talking at the time when supply chain, now we talk about supply chain and everyone's like, okay, we kind of understand. But we didn't understand why it is that we couldn't get enough of this, or why it is that we had to be conservative with this, and trying to get folks to understand that we need to take this approach. This is the way that we're going to do it for your safety, for the safety of the patient. Splitting the hospital was quite difficult because now you have individuals who are working in an area where the risk is significantly higher. And you're asking them to come in every day, working extra shifts, because unfortunately, with the splitting of the hospital with COVID, we also fell victim to the great resignation. People left the profession because they didn't want to be in the line of danger. And some people said, you know what, I've done my part. Or there's an opportunity for me to go to Texas or Louisiana where they're paying more. So now with the workforce that we had, those who are loyal and remained here in the organization, how can we support that need to continue providing care to the community and also being able to keep the staff safe? So that for me were the biggest obstacles during this last 2.5 years now of this pandemic.
Well, I tell you, I applaud you. I applaud everyone. This has been trying. We're still in more challenges, right? You know, we've got, like you said, the labor shortage. We've got high inflation. We've got a war going on, and it's just no let up from a social standpoint. But you've got to have fortitude. We talked a little bit earlier about how you look back at yourself, how you look back in time, and you start to find your own relatives as they move through time. Now you're an immigrant. You're Bahamian. Your father is of Haitian descent. And I like, because I think it was so important to understand the journey of how you got here and how you appreciate things like education. Would you like to just enlighten us a little bit?
Absolutely. I think when it comes to education, I go back to I call it the genesis of the journey. My grandmother, my father's mother, Rose Guerrier. You have this lady who's one of 17 children. She's the last of 17. She's unable to read and write because she never had any formal education. And her life experience, she realized how important education was. I think the description that's most fitting is her description that her life was a tunnel, that it was dark because she did not have that opportunity for an education, but she always saw the light at the end of the tunnel. And that light represented education. So even though she was not able to have any education in her life, formal education, she made it a point that all of her children, so my father and his other 9 siblings, all had a formal education in Haiti. And because of my dad's formal education, he learned about the world. And that allowed him to say, you know what? As a young man, he decided he was leaving Haiti, and he left Haiti and went to the Bahamas. And so that's a testament to the power of education. He was exposed to it. It opened up a new world for him. He went out to explore that world. So I too, growing up, which means when you grow up with someone who values education, and my household was also the same thing. My dad growing up and my mom as well pushed that we had to cherish the education that we were getting because it was not normal. And I didn't appreciate that until the first time that I met my maternal grandmother, and she told me, and I was befounded, like, how can you not have had these opportunities? But then now that, as I got older and I was able to appreciate it, I'm telling you, I never took education for granted. So I've always embraced my schooling and the opportunities that it's afforded me. So I'm always open to learn.
Well, I tell you, you have told me that story. And I think even another story that you told about your start in the healthcare realm. And I want you to talk to our younger youth, our generation, a step or two behind us, is that when you were young and you were working in the hospital, you had a staff role, and then you got inquisitive about, hey, how are you doing that? And what does it take educationally to perform that duty? And I want our young people to really buy into this, because no matter your circumstance, you just talked about your grandmother. And we're going to talk about yourself. You could have stopped. You could have stopped, and you could have went a parallel direction, but you made education a brand for you to leverage and move forward. And having this knowledge opportunity, there's not a lot of people in color as CEOs of hospitals, specifically in South Florida. So it's in unique position. But the journey to get to that position is a story well worth being told. So if you wanted to talk to that young professional who's just starting out in the healthcare profession, what would you say?
I would tell that person inevitably look for a mentor. See someone who's in that role if you're interested for a particular profession in the healthcare arena and ask. Also, do your research, read about it. I will tell you, when I started, my first job in healthcare was at Mount Sinai down on the beach. I was what they call a unit service assistant. That means I was an orderly, I was a transporter, I was a nurse's aide, I was a unit secretary if the phone needed to be answered. And it just by happenstance, I was taking a patient to the cancer center. I take the patient to the cancer center, I transport the patient, and I befriend one of the radiation therapists there. And I'm like, what is it that you guys do down here? And he's like, we do radiation oncology. We use radiation to be able to treat people with cancer. I said, can you show me how it works? What type of schooling did you have to do to be able to do this? And by being inquisitive and asking those questions, I said, you know what, I think I can do that. So I joined Miami-Dade College at the time. The medical campus facilitated that radiation oncology program. I joined that program in the radiology program, completed my studies there, and passed my boards and started working at Baptist for a little bit as a radiation therapist. So that questioning and that asking of what is it that you do and seeing, okay, you know what, this is something that's compatible that I can do, that I like, and I can help others. I was able to do that. And as I progressed in my career, I joined Memorial back in 2001. I joined the Memorial Healthcare System, and I had another mentor by the name of Jeff Esham. And I remember Jeff pulling me aside and saying, Vedner, I think you have a lot of potential to be a leader. And he said, I will help you along the way, but guess what? You're going to have to go back to school because you're going to need to complete that bachelor's degree. And if you want to move up further, a master's degree is in your future. And so I committed to that, understanding, and I saw it as well. As I progressed as a leader, I was promoted to chief therapist of the department, then manager, then director, and then admin director. As I've moved up these different roles until the vice president of oncology, I realized going back to school helped bolster my knowledge base, my understanding of certain things that were so important to allow me to be able to problem solve, deal with difficult situations, how to communicate with others, engagement, and also how to lead and how to govern. So you leveraging education, I was fortunate that I called it, I did it as needed, because as I became a director, went back, completed my bachelor's. When the opportunity was coming for me to become an admin director, I went and completed my master's. So for me, I was very fortunate in that. And, for the young person listening today, you gotta put the work in, and the work in is through education. One of the things that I do right now that I take great pride in is when I was doing my MBA, I actually completed a Lean Six Sigma black belt. So that's process improvement. That's how to look at problems and help people fix problems and look at things differently. I will tell you, I've had the opportunity to travel the world actually teaching doctors how to use Lean Six Sigma to improve their care delivery and their workflow. And also, it has helped me as a leader here at Memorial to be productive because I look at problems differently and we work collectively to resolve
them. That's great advice, fantastic advice. And I'm sure someone will be listening and they will remember the moment that they heard these words, because it's encouragement, it's inspirational. It means that no matter what your circumstance, you too can change the outcome, but you have to put in the work. You've got to put in the effort. And I want to ask you, because healthcare is changing, the delivery of healthcare, the transformation of healthcare. And I'm in the technology field, and I work with a lot of different healthcare systems. And I see, because I've done this 20 plus years, and I've seen a lot of transformation, a lot of changes just in technology and how it's delivered. And in the healthcare world, it takes a lot to make changes because of workflow, because of policies, because of compliance and things like that. But now they see the need to adopt technology because of the labor shortage. You've got to be able to do more with less. I just saw where a hospital out in Kentucky started using robotic process automation, an actual robot to fulfill pharmacy or different prescriptions, right? How are you looking at? Because that's one we always ask ourselves. We always talk to the CIO or technology, but we don't really always talk to the administration about how it's viewed from either an operational, a financial, or how does it meet the administration goals?
For the long term of financial viability for any organization, in particular in healthcare, I will tell you we're looking to leverage technology any which way we can. From being able to educate the consumer before they even walk through the door. For example, I always use this example in oncology. So we do a lot of support consultation for, say, a social worker or a patient navigator to better understand what's happening with the patient. Or in healthcare now, we're dealing with financial toxicity. So a financial counselor that can help guide that patient through what the impact might be financially. Why do I need you, Grant, to get into your car, to drive all the way here to Memorial Hospital West, park in a parking garage, walk 1,000 feet to come into the hospital to sit and meet with that person? No, let's leverage, like we're communicating today, leverage technology. You have the camera, you have the phone, you have means, and the convenience of the person having a phone at their home being able to discuss with you, taking the time to do it. One way to leverage technology. Also, we're talking about safety. Technology makes us safer. So some of the things that we're looking at and regulatory things that we need to meet, hand washing. We have devices now that, and we're doing this at Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital as a trial, that there's a badge buddy that you wear that says, hey, after you enter into a patient's room, it can validate if you stop at the hand washing station, wash your hands before you engage with the patient. So that's infection control, trying to keep that down. Also, I said educating the consumer, being able to get as much information as you can get online so a patient can say, hey, you're coming in for a hip transplant, a hip replacement. This is what it's going to look like. This is what you're going to go through. This is what we're expecting post-surgery. This is what your recovery will be before we think you're well enough to be discharged to go home. So technology affords us to be able to do all of that, because so often what happens if we're unable to educate the consumer, patient ends up coming back. And we don't want the patient to come back. We want them to be compliant. So we provide written documentation, and we can provide that technology aspect for them to go back as a reference. It better helps us. And more importantly, it improves communication. Healthcare is about communication. It's a team effort. We work synergistically together, but it is through communication, and technology allows us to be able to do that. So the next generation of folks coming into this specialty and into this profession, technology is here. It's here to stay. And as a leader, my job is to get it when I can get it. Hopefully it's affordable. And also doing everything that I can do to make sure that my team are well versed in utilization of that technology. But it's all for the improvement of the consumer experience, the patient experience.
I'm glad you're on board with that, because it is changing. The landscape is changing. You've got artificial intelligence, machine to machine learning. We talked about robotic process automation. All of these things are going to be leveraged, especially with genomic sequencing that's occurring, and specialized medicine. All of these things are changing the way healthcare is being delivered. So when I talk to you and in the role of CEO, a new CEO, I believe that role has changed. So when you look at your predecessors and you look at how they had to manage, whether it was from an operational lens, whether it was from a financial lens, now a technological lens. You've got to have great situational awareness. And I think you are definitely leveraging that at a very, very high level. So if you could tell us from your viewpoint as the CEO, and you're talking to the community, to the South Florida community, what kind of information, what can you tell us that we need to know about the healthcare system?
Healthcare is changing. The needs of the consumers are changing. The technology has changed as well. So one of the things that when I look at it, when I am dealing with any type of audience and communicating about healthcare, I think the one fundamental thing that I always want to impart on them is that we care about your well-being. We want that positive outcome because you could be no different than anyone else. It could be my loved one. It could be my father or my mother or any other family member that's receiving care. So that aspect of it is there. So we're focused on how can we better deliver that care? And it's quite complex. And it's making sure that the folks understand the complexities of it. So often people say, well, the hospital won't do this, the insurance company won't do this, but it's also making sure that we can educate them on why. So everyone, for example, so often people misunderstand. If a new robot comes out and the robot is for XYZ procedure, you get someone come in and they're like, well, I want to have the robotic procedure. But it might be a procedure that we can do laparoscopically and your outcome is the same. Your length of stay in the hospital may be the same and your overall outcome and well-being is the same. Understand, if we start using the robot costs more. There's more to cost to it. Also, the physicians are limited to how many cases they can do with a robot compared to if they do it laparoscopically. There are certain cases that they have to do robotically. For example, we do a lot of cardiac procedures now that we're able to do with the robot, which is awesome because by not having to cut that person's chest open, your recovery time is significantly less. And so what's appropriate? Leveraging that as well to educate the consumer in terms of what's appropriate for their care. Because so often you see the commercial and you're like, no, that's what I want. But that might not necessarily equate to what you need for the condition that you have. So it's one of those balances that we are tasked with.
I tell you, when we talk about the consumerization of health, I love how you just say we have to educate the consumer. They need to understand, because if you don't understand, you're going to make bad choices, or you come to different conclusions. You don't understand, like, oh, well, I saw this commercial. I see this all the time as well. I see these, drug commercials come out, and they're like, oh, you should try aspartame and this and that. I'm like, I'm not a doctor. What do I know? I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work or not. Maybe, I guess. I am not the expert in the room. I depend on you to be the expert, and I need to understand that. And like you said earlier, getting that information out there, whether they need to search for it or whether it's available on social media, or it's got to be communicated so you understand the situation. The more you understand, the less frustration that you're going to have, because everyone knows going through the healthcare system is a labyrinth. It's a labyrinth. And the more that we all understand that, and the more that we can all communicate, we can all come to a better result, a better outcome. I think that's so key. So I really appreciate that. And before we conclude, is there anything else that we have not left on the table? And I think we've talked about family, talked about some things, but I want you to make sure that we don't leave anything out of this discussion, because I think it's so important.
I think, Grant, again, thank you for allowing me this time this afternoon to be able to have this conversation with you. I think for the person looking to come into healthcare, the young person coming to look into healthcare, someone maybe like me, Afro-Caribbean descent, looking to come into a profession, those opportunities are there. Again, leverage the great opportunity that we have in this country of access to education. Use that as a tool. It will help you. Don't give up even if someone says no. If you're focused, seek a mentor. read about whatever it is that you're looking. If you have a goal, establish that goal, read about it, do your education, do your homework, and more importantly, engage with others, such as the different societies that we're a part of that help get the word out, and making those connections. And doing that, I think it'll be very helpful for that next generation of leaders and workers in healthcare coming in. I think it's so important. We need them. We saw with COVID, people are aging out, people are retiring, and they're leaving with a lot of intellectual capital as well. So we need that next generation of leaders and next generation of workers to come in. Because as I said, and I always say this in every orientation that we do here at the Memorial Healthcare System that I'm a part of, at the end of the day, it is not the technology that defines the care that a patient's going to receive. It's about the experience. And what makes the experience? The people that we employ. So the people, if you care and you let that patient know that you care about them, then the care and that experience is going to be outstanding. And that's what's important. So it's not the technology, it's the people. And I always stress that. Focus on the people. Tell my leaders, focus on the people. Make sure they have the tools that they need to be able to work. Make sure that they know they're working in a place where they're appreciated, and the rest falls into place.
I couldn't have said it better, Vedner. Absolutely. Humanity first. Humanity first in everything that we do, especially from a lens of technology and the lens of affording healthcare to the population. So that's very, very important. So if anyone needs to get in contact with you, what is the best way?
So the best way is my work email. It's vguerrier@mhs.net. So that's vguerrier@mhs.net. And it'll be my pleasure to provide them any guidance, assistance that I can do.
Well, this has been a pleasure. I thank you for being a guest on the Follow the Brand Show. I advise everyone to look at all the episodes that we have on my website at www.5starbdm, and that's B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being a guest, Vedner.
Thank you. Thank you. Be well and have a great day.
You too.
And positioning my brand. So one of the things I learned throughout that journey was the importance of your brand, your personal brand, and how you are perceived, in your organization. Are you perceived as someone who can operate at the executive level? Do you act that way? Do you dress that way? Do you communicate that way? Are you involved in the same interests as the other executive leaders? Do you attend those events that people don't want to go to after work that they're at? Are you involved in the philanthropic efforts that the executive leadership are involved in? You got to get plugged in, because at the end of the day, it's about relationships.
Better job as healthcare IT leaders in partnering with the universities and helping drive the curriculum and the programs and the lingo of what the next future students coming out of those schools are, and what we as healthcare IT leaders need. us aligning to what we need as organizations and helping align the universities to create and generate that talent base is critical. For example, analysts is a good one. So a lot of times organizations have the technologists, right? The network engineers, server engineers, the techies. And then on the application side, they're looking for a clinical analyst or a business analyst, and that word has gone through many different definitions. But in the definition of today, if you go to Memorial, if you go to Jackson, if you go to UM, if you go to Health Choice Network, what that really means is somebody either certified in Epic or certified in Cerner, if you're looking on the clinical side. If you're looking at it on the business side, somebody that knows Workday, that knows ERPs, right? It doesn't have to be vendor specific, but, solution specific, or understanding that there's going to be configuration of systems and the right competencies around that.
Welcome, everyone. I want to help everybody understand what executive presence is truly all about. I've got a lot of people that are involved in different associations. I've got a lot of people that work in all different hospital systems, specifically here in South Florida, whether you're at Jackson Health System, whether you're at Broward Health, whether you are at Memorial Healthcare System. And I wanted to talk to someone who's been in the field for a number of years, who's seen the seasons come and go in a way that she has the eye. I call it the eye of the tiger. And so we're going to talk to the tiger today in the form of Miss Felicia Turnley. And she's been wonderful enough to join me on the podcast. And we want to have a candid conversation about her and her journey and how she's doing during these days and times. So Felicia, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, Grant. Thank you very much for having me. I am Felicia Turnley, as you said. I am the Chief Operating Officer for Memorial Hospital West here in Pembroke Pines, Florida. I have been with Memorial Healthcare System for about 20 years, almost 21 years, and here at West for about 17 years, 18 years now. So I've seen a lot. But I've been in healthcare now for over 30 years. So it has been an interesting experience, an exciting experience, and I really enjoy what I do.
You just reminded me of something. I did not realize that Memorial West has been at that location for 17 or 18 years. It's like, I remember when they just built it.
Actually, Memorial West has been here much longer. Memorial West is now actually 30 years old. We celebrated our 30th birthday in May. We opened in 1992, and I was not here when it opened. I've, like I said, only been here about 17 or 18 years now. But the hospital has been here 30 years now, and we opened as a small 100-bed hospital here in Pembroke Pines before there was a lot here. I understand. I've been told there were cow pastures here, there were a lot of open land, and now Pembroke Pines has just grown tremendously.
I believe that. It was after Andrew kind of drove people from South Dade, and they found this new world up here. Now you've got Miramar is huge, Pembroke Pines is huge, and Memorial West has been this beacon out there, and it's just been there for so long.
Yes, actually, that's one of the things that I think has truly driven the growth for Memorial Hospital West. We opened in May of 1992. Hurricane Andrew hit, as many people will remember, in August of 1992. And from that point forward, Memorial Hospital West continued to grow because many people, there's a mass exodus out of Miami, if we remember, and there were a lot of people who moved up to the Pembroke Pines, Miramar area. And as a result, Memorial Hospital West has not stopped growing. We have been here to meet the needs of the community and it has been constant. So that has been an exciting part of the growth for this hospital and healthcare system, definitely.
I think it's wonderful for the system because you've got hospitals now right in Miramar. You got another hospital in Pembroke Pines. You're pretty much, you've got the major hospital that's been in Hollywood for a long time, but you've got that flagship right there on Flamingo that's been there, kind of waving that flag, which has been wonderful. And you've been doing it for a long time, to the point where we want to reflect just a little bit. As you look at your career. And I know you're a child of the South. You're coming from Alabama. You went to school in Kentucky, and then you got your master's in Alabama, and then you came down here to Florida to help us, in our time of need, right? Which I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And you've done, I think you've done some time in West Palm Beach, and then in Broward County, and those type of things. Now, as you look at your career, and you look back, and you start thinking about where you see people today, executives today that are in healthcare, younger, now where you're here now, and you see that gap in I wish I would have done that in my career. What would you say to that?
Well, there are a lot of things. I think as we reflect back, we may say, and then we put ourselves in action. I think as I look back in my early years, and especially coming out of my graduate program, I often think that the whole aspect of networking and continuous networking is so important, and making sure that you are a part of the community that you're in and you're serving, and getting to know the individuals, not just in healthcare, but within the community. I think that especially being a part of community hospitals, we have to make sure we are a part of the cities and the counties where we work. And so that's so important. So I think that's something that I've had to learn through the process and learn through the years, and not something necessarily that was taught. And so much of what we experience is truly the experience and not what we are taught in the process. And so that's so important.
As we continue down that line, networking, and when I know digital networking is in play now, still need to have physical networking. People need to know who you are and what you do, because no one knows when they may end up in a hospital situation. Typically they don't. It's always nice to know somebody that's involved in the system. They can at least give advice if they're not at your facility, to kind of help them. So I truly appreciate that. Now, from a career perspective, as people, as you've seen, you went to school, you got your MHA, you got your higher education, and then now you've seen a lot of others, coming into the industry, and they're wanting to pursue a career similar to yours. You're taught. I know a lot of people always say, yeah, we're taught to be CEOs, we're taught to be this, we're taught to be that, you taught to be leaders. I don't know if you can jump right out of school and run a hospital. I don't think so. So what advice would you give someone that, would help them on their trajectory?
Well, you definitely need the education and higher education, master's level, by all means. But even with that, I think it's important for young people to understand that you're not going to finish your master's and become the CEO and run, a hospital and organization. You need some experience. You need to gain the knowledge. Healthcare is ever changing, and so we have to always stay on our game. We have to constantly be learning, going to conferences, trying to understand where this whole field is going. And so that's one thing. You want to gain your master's, but be a continuous learner in the process. Very important. You have to build those relationships. This is a relationship field. It's meeting people, working with people. We do not work in silos. In order to run a hospital, to provide care for our patients, we don't do it in a silo, just one department or one person. It's a team. It's a team working together. And so you have to be a team player. This is a team sport, so to say. So that is very important in interacting with people. You have to be an excellent communicator. That includes not just verbally, face-to-face, in writing, but you have to be an active listener and observer, because we need to observe our surroundings. We need to understand what's not being said to us so that we can glean from that and be able to react from that as well. And so that is so important. And then, as we've talked about, the ongoing networking that comes with being a part of this arena. And it's growing, not just in the healthcare and meeting people, but like I said, in the community and those we serve, and just being here for the community is so important. And so those are some of the important key points. So it's not just the education, it's being that well-rounded individual that comes with that.
I totally agree with that. Now, I want to ask you this question, because this is around leadership. This is our executive presence season. And we just talked about how Memorial West really got started and grew. And that was because of a crisis, the crisis of a hurricane and Andrew, and caused people to have to migrate and move. You just went through another crisis, COVID-19. No one saw that coming. Now you're the operations officer of the hospital. That had to be a challenging situation, because the operations, the normal workflows are changing. How did that affect you as an executive?
Well, I think one thing that it brought to mind is that we have to always just be ready and flexible, because you never know what's coming your way. None of us had ever experienced this before, not in healthcare, period. And so we had to be creative. We had to make sure, bottom line, first off, was always making sure our patients are taken care of and our staff taken care of. And we had to rely on infectious disease experts and CDC guidelines as we made some decisions very quickly, because if people remember, it seemed like everything was going well, and then all of a sudden, lockdown and things were changing. And so we had to figure out, how do we operate differently in this new paradigm that we're in? And so it brings to point that, we're not always experts. We have to rely, once again, it's a relationship situation. You have to rely on other experts sometimes to be able to bring in information and then make the very best decisions that you can at that point in time. And for us, it quickly became setting up specific units where we were able to care for COVID patients, and be able to make sure that our staff were safe with appropriate PPE, with masks and gowns and things that were needed. And Then as the numbers grew, it meant we had to convert more units and more units. And so that became a constant. And we tried to stay ahead of it. So we're constantly looking at, what are the community, what's happening in the community, what's happening in the state. We're reaching out to colleagues, maybe even in New York, where it's happening faster than happening here, and getting feedback from them of how they were dealing with things. And eventually we ended up having to set up even units for non-COVID patients in our auditoriums, in our classrooms, even at one point in time, even in our cafeteria. And the impact of that to everybody, our staff, our physicians, it has been an interesting time. It's been a challenging time, but we've gotten over the worst of it, I should say. But it was very interesting. It was a learning experience and a growth experience. And I often say to staff that, together we can achieve so much. And when we put our heads together, when we work together, and it truly was a time such as that we all had to work together and everyone gave it their all. And we really appreciate that because it's all about our patients that we serve.
You just that define leadership. That's leadership. Leadership is not something you read in a book. Leadership is in the field, in the action, because people are looking up to you when they just have given their all. They've worked 12, 14 hours and people are still coming in sick. People are still, you're running out of supplies. You're being tested at every single level. Talk about a hurricane. That is a human hurricane that hit your hospital, not just for a few hours or just a day, but for 2 years. 2 years. It takes a toll. And here you're still standing.
Still standing. And it means that we have to be cheerleaders for each other. We have to help lift people up because it's been a long 2 years and it's been hard. And so you have to work together to try to help people get through it because people have their low times during the process as well. And we still have important roles to play. And so that's a team working together. It's not about the I, it's about the team and the patients that we serve, definitely.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaugh, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaugh explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
5-Star BDM, Brand Development Masters, is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for the small to mid-sized business and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share business development challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement and operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. This results in more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Visit www.5starbdm.com today to learn more.
Help me understand this. A lot of people don't understand the hierarchy, the organization of a hospital. You're the chief operations officer, so you have a certain responsibility. The chief executive officer has another set of responsibilities. And you have a chief financial officer, I think CMO, chief medical officer. They all have to work together. How has your brand as a chief operations officer helped you in your career?
Mhm. Well, as a chief operating officer, definitely involved in the day-to-day operations of the hospital. And in our system and in our hospital, I have numerous departments that I work with directly to ensure that they are working efficiently and appropriately to help provide the care to the patient. And then looking at the overall hospital. One of my responsibilities that I've had throughout my career has always been involved with growth, master site planning, construction, facility renovation. And so that has been truly important to my brand, I think. And it actually started when I came to South Florida, and I worked with the North Broward Hospital District, and actually was the 7th person hired at Coral Springs Medical Center before the building was complete. And so I was very instrumental in that as a construction project, operationalizing, hiring staff, and then, opening and, making that, at that point, 200-bed facility, operational. And so throughout my career, that has become one of the things that I have always been involved in, the strategic planning, growth, master planning of facilities. And so it has just continued here at Memorial Hospital West, where we are constantly growing. The most recent projects have included, replacement of equipment. We've added 128 slice CT. But one of the bigger projects was when we had 3 major construction projects coming one after the other. We built a graduate medical education building, followed by then a 120-bed unit, a 3-floor addition to the floors that we had. And then from that, a parking garage, a 1,500 space parking garage. So we had a lot going on right from one, but it's exciting to be a part of the planning and design of those, then the coordination and teamwork to make that happen, and especially when working on clinical projects and making sure that your contractors and engineers recognize that they are working in a facility that's operational. So they have to abide by our rules, because we still have to take care of patients in the midst of all of those activities. And so it's the coordination working together, and sometimes you may need to have shutdowns of units. How do you do that and still maintain operations? So a lot of logistics are involved in those type of projects, and then getting to the point of, coordination of move-in and making sure that things are working correctly to be able to serve that first patient or provide that first care is very important. And so it's always been a lot of fun. It's been challenging in itself as well, but I truly enjoy that, and it has been a good experience.
Well, I have a newfound appreciation for what you do, because people don't, I know I didn't understand this, that a hospital is a large enterprise, and it's a large building enterprise. It's not, obviously you're doing clinical care, but you're doing clinical care inside of a large office building, more or less. And then all the things that you have to do in an office building, you have to do in a hospital. And oh, by the way,
Mhm.
take care of patients, so all those things. So
Yeah.
I mean, you get your MHA, right? But then you do it. I don't know if they teach this, and I never went to school for an MHA, but I'm like, how do you're talking about construction management. That's that's a learned skill for sure.
They definitely don't teach it, and that's why I say we're in a constant learning environment and finding your niche and what you enjoy, and it's all about communication too, and also remembering what's our focus and our goal. Our mission is patient care, and so everything that we do, we want to make sure we're providing the best care for our patients. We want to maintain those services for our patients. So in the example of the construction project, whatever we're doing, we cannot interrupt that day-to-day of what we do for our patients. And if there's any perceived notion that that's going to happen, we need to figure out another way around it. And so it becomes challenging, but thank God we've always been able to work around and make things happen to make sure that our patients are always served and minimize any impact to them as we grow and provide services for them.
Has there been a change? And you talked about, constantly learning, because I've seen the shift in the industry, moving from what are called large multi-bed, 100-bed facilities to more micro hospitals. Are you seeing that trend also happening where you're having smaller, more resilient, flexible systems?
Yes. That truly is a trend now. Smaller facilities, and many are being discussed and built even in this community. And so that's, I think, where the future will possibly be. It'll be interesting to see, as we, as Memorial Hospital West, even started as that small 100-bed facility, what will come in the future as those facilities are built. And many will be built with the potential of growth, and that's what happens, definitely.
I
Available
understood that.
growth.
I'm looking forward to it. We do have an older population that will need to get to, especially critical care, urgent care facilities very quickly. So the closer they are, the better, as our demographic is definitely changing. I'll tell you, I want to ask you one more question. And really, I'm going to unplug and have you just answer it the way you would like to totally answer it. But here's what I get from feedback from my listeners, my audience, and it's nationwide. Got a lot of different people at certain points of their career, and they have challenges. And some of the biggest challenges is that, yeah, I've heard people talk about mentors, and it's hard for me to get there. I heard people talk about advocates to help me get from that to that next role or that next opportunity. I've heard people talking about sponsors and that type of thing, but I haven't seen, someone like reach across the aisle and tap me, on the shoulder, like, all right, I want you to work with me. I want you to be a part of my group. What would you want to say to those individuals so they can make the changes that are necessary to get that next step?
It's important to, I've used this word a lot, but, network with those that you aspire to follow. And so I've said to many people, the networking can be just, can I have a few minutes of your time and understand how you got to where you are, and ask the critical questions. What would you, similar to what you're asking me, if you had to do it differently, would you take a different track? How would you do it? What's your advice for young, new leaders? How do they grow and continue? And then being able to process that and model that. I think it's important to sit and be able to hear those things and put them in practice, but also, if possible, put yourself in that situation as young people who are either, in school now, beginning to matriculate out. Is there an opportunity for a residency, a fellowship, even a volunteer opportunity so that you can get to know that industry and know this industry in healthcare and make sure that it is where you want to be. The beauty of healthcare is that there are so many different options out there. And that's one of the things I love to tell young people is that, many young people think doctor, nurse, but the avenue is so big. And so the opportunities, and so it's always a good thing to have young, potential master's program graduates come into the hospital specifically, because that's where I am, and see where the opportunities are. If they like marketing, there's opportunities. Are they more into human resources? Or are they wanting to take a clinical track? And it can be nursing, or it can be respiratory, or imaging, or so there's so many opportunities. And I think that's what's so important for young people and aspiring, healthcare individuals to see is that there are so many different avenues. And from those avenues that can lead to leadership if that's what you want. But to also make sure you're coming into this environment for the right reason. And I stress that we are here for a mission to serve the people that come to us as patients. And that should be the focal point of why you're in this environment. Because it's a challenging environment. And so you have to be here for the right reason. And that's so important.
I totally agree. I know when I went to your facility, the overwhelming feeling that I got as we would go down the halls is that everybody was paying attention to what was happening. If somebody was coming through with a patient in a bed, people would get out of the way. They would make sure that they would do that. And then they would ask, well, what else do you need? Do you need any help? Do you need to call anybody? It was truly a village at work helping each other. I noticed that right off the bat. And I noticed it throughout, no matter what your role or responsibility was, that was the overarching experience that was happening. And I truly appreciated that. And I appreciate you for taking the time to talk to me today. So if my audience would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Best way is email, and that's fturnley@mhs.net. And so definitely welcome to hear from any of your listeners.
Well, this has been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for being a guest on the Follow Brand podcast. I encourage everyone to tune into all the episodes on Follow Brand at www.5starbdm, that's B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Until next time, take care, Felicia.
Thank you so much, Grant. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Tune in for our next show or click on our website at www.5starbdm/followthebrandtv. Thank you. Hey everyone, it's Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM and host of the award-winning Follow the Brand podcast and TV series, where I help you to build a 5-star brand that people will follow. My genius is personal brand development through intelligent communication and helping you achieve your business and career goals. I am a requested speaker on digital technology and brand development issues. I want to work with you to increase the value of your current opportunities while attracting new ones. Every one of you is unique, and we all share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. As a super connector, I work with you as an executive coach to guide you along the complicated business and career development road, providing the enhancement tools and information you need to succeed. Together, I will help you succeed in today's challenging business climate. I will evaluate and measure your progress. Best of all, I am right alongside you every step of the way. Build the brand called you. Kings.